If you've ever sat down and created a perfectly sensible business plan, only to look at it 3 months later and realize that half of the important things somehow never happened, I want you to know something. You probably didn't have a planning problem. You probably knew exactly what you wanted and what to do. You had an activation problem. And the distinction matters because if you misunderstand the problem, you'll keep doing what most business owners do over and over again. You'll make another plan, you'll set another collection of goals, and you'll write another list of priorities. You'll tell yourself that this time you're gonna be more disciplined. And then Monday morning arrives, the emails start, the clients need you, your team needs answers, something breaks, a new opportunity lands, one thing becomes urgent, then another, and eventually the important work gets pushed behind whatever is shouting loudest today. 3 months later, you're asking the same question again. Where did the quarter go?
Yep, I keep saying it, and that is exactly the problem FutureLAB was created to solve. For us, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, we built it for us.
Not just helping you decide what the business needs to do next, but helping you create the conditions in which you are far more likely to actually do it.
At Q Branch, we call what we've just described the drift cycle, because most businesses don't suddenly crash on course. They drift. You start with good intentions, then urgency takes over, priorities begin to blur, you become more reactive, momentum starts disappearing from the things that really mattered, and eventually another 90 days are gone. What makes drift dangerous is that it often doesn't look dangerous at all. You can still be making money, customers can still be happy, your team can still be busy, your diary can be absolutely rammed, but underneath all that activity, the business can still be making far less progress than it's really capable of.
And if that sounds familiar, there's an important distinction we want you to make. Being busy isn't the same as moving. Working hard isn't the same as progressing. And knowing what you should do isn't the same as being physically and practically ready to do it. That's where most traditional business planning falls short.
Yeah. My world is strategy, commercial clarity, priorities, decisions. What should this business actually be trying to achieve? What deserves to matter? What do we need to say no to? And what would make the biggest commercial difference? And I can sit with a founder or a business leader and help them build what looks like a beautifully rational plan.
My work is different. I'm looking at the human being who has to execute it. What happens when it gets uncomfortable? What happens when there's uncertainty? What happens when a client asks for something? What happens when they have to say no? What happens when an exciting new area arrives? That happens to me a lot. Shiny object syndrome. I love a shiny object. And what happens when the action they need to take creates fear, resistance, or exposure? Because strategy can be perfectly logical, and human beings aren't always logical. I'd say they're very rarely logical.
Very rarely logical. Which led us to a very simple conclusion. Strategy without activation is just another document.
And activation without strategy becomes energy without direction.
Guess what? You need both. Most business planning starts by asking, what do we want to achieve next? FutureLAB starts somewhere else. We ask, what actually happened last time? Because your previous 90 days contains evidence. You had intentions. Some happened, some didn't. Some projects flew, some dragged. Some priorities disappeared completely. And rather than pretending that none of that matters and enthusiastically writing another list of goals, we use that knowledge, we use that data. We often say success leaves clues, and so does the failure and the problems. That's the first stage of FutureLAB, Mission AAR, which stands for After Action Review. We look at what you intended to happen, what actually happened, why there was a gap, and what you must learn before you repeat the same patterns over and over and over again.
And there's one question in that process that can be incredibly revealing. What are you in danger of repeating? Because if you don't identify that, the next quarter often becomes the last quarter with different goals written at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And a better quarter doesn't begin with a bigger ambition. It begins with better information. And then we move into focus. And this is where business owners often discover something very uncomfortable. They don't have 3 priorities. They have 12. Sometimes many more.
I've got loads of priorities. That's why I've got so many tabs open all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's my ADHD brain.
Yeah. Everything is apparently important. Sales, marketing, recruitment, operations, website, processes, products, partnerships, networking, client delivery, cash flow, systems, content. And there's a fundamental problem with that, apart from the fact that I can't breathe. If everything is important, nothing is truly being prioritized, because prioritization requires sacrifice. For one thing to genuinely matter, something else has to matter less. Something has to lose. So one of the things FutureLAB forces you to do is make decisions. Not just what are we going to do, but what are we not going to do? What gets stopped? What gets delegated? What gets delayed? What opportunity gets a deliberate no? What project no longer deserves another hour? That can create more progress than simply adding another goal to an already overloaded business.
Because every yes consumes capacity. And sometimes the reason you're not moving isn't a lack of ambition. You've simply committed the same time, energy, and intention 5 times over. Once we understand what's happened and we've decided what genuinely deserves attention, then we design the next 90 days. Matt loves the design part of the process, don't you?
Absolutely, it's the fun.
So that means taking things like, I want to improve my marketing, I want to grow sales, or I want to sort the team out, and turning them into outcomes you can actually manage. When this was the stage in learning my coaching that is actually the most difficult, is getting those clear goals, because people have very fluffy, vague things that they come with. So what does success actually look like? And how will we know what needs to move, who owns it, what happens first? What would need to be true at the end of 90 days for us to say that quarter worked? This is the part most planning processes are relatively comfortable with. It's what we start with as coaches. Like, we start with this bit. And if FutureLAB stopped there, it would still be useful, but it would also miss the part that we believe makes the biggest difference.
Oh, hell yeah, the biggest difference. Are you ready? Because at this point, you can have the best looking plan in the world, you know what matters, you have clear outcomes, you understand the priorities, you know what has to happen. And now we ask, what's going to stop you? Not theoretically, you, personally. What normally happens? Does urgent work take over? Do you overcommit? Do you struggle to say no? Do you avoid uncomfortable conversations? Do you lose momentum when the result isn't immediate? Do you chase new ideas?
Me? You're pointing at me? I do not chase. Oh, I do actually. I love a shiny object.
Yeah. Do you chase new ideas? Do you overthink decisions? Do you make a brilliant plan?
I do those too. I make lots of brilliant plans.
Do you make a brilliant plan and then stop looking at it?
Oh yeah, I do that as well.
Does everything still have to come through you?
Because those things don't disappear because you bought a new notebook. Honestly, I have millions of notebooks.
This is where we introduce activate. And for us, this is the most missing stage in business planning. You can change the goal, you can change the spreadsheet, you can change the plan, but if the person executing it walks back into exactly the same environment with exactly the same behavior, the same diary, the same triggers, the same habits, and the same avoidance, why would we expect a radically different result?
Yeah, because the plan did not change the person executing it. And that's why the central belief behind FutureLAB is this. You don't have a planning problem, you have an activation problem. FutureLAB helps you identify that risk before the next 90 days begin, so you don't have to discover it after another quarter has disappeared.
Yeah, and then finally we move into execute, because even a properly activated plan still needs rhythm. You need to know what gets reviewed, when, what happens monthly, what happens weekly, what needs protecting every single day. Because a plan you stop looking at will eventually be replaced by urgency. And if you don't transform the plan into habits, routines, and musts, it'll be replaced by urgency.
So every month we should look at, are we still pursuing the right outcome? Because quite often we follow the same thing out of habit, but is it even right? Weekly, we should look at what must we move this week, and daily, what must be protected today. And protection is massively important. I come in, I think, I'm going to do this today, and then people call, emails come in, and that whole protection barrier just disperses really quickly. So if we're aware of what needs protecting, we will put that armor on.
That gives us the complete FutureLAB system. Mission AAR review. What did the last 90 days teach us? Focus. What genuinely matters now? Design. What does success look like and how will we measure it? Activate. What is most likely to stop us? And execute. How do we keep this alive once real life starts again?
FutureLAB isn't 6 hours of sitting passively watching me and you teach business theory. It's a working day. You are there to work on your business, your previous quarter, your priorities, your decisions, your barriers, your next 90 days.
And I think there's another way to describe it that's even more useful. FutureLAB is a protected day to make the decisions you keep not making. Because the normal working week is terrible at giving you space to think. Something always appears more urgent. FutureLAB deliberately removes you from that cycle long enough to look properly at the business and decide what really happens next. You leave with far more than notes from a workshop. You leave having worked through the thinking.
FutureLAB is for you if you're running a business and thinking, I'm incredibly busy, but I'm not sure the things that matter most are moving quickly enough. It's for you if there are too many priorities. I've got lots of those. If important projects keep getting pushed back, if the business is constantly reactive, if your plans start well but lose momentum, if you know there are decisions you've been avoiding, or if you're simply doing well but know the business is capable of more deliberate progress. You don't need to be failing to benefit from FutureLAB. In fact, successful businesses can be particularly vulnerable to drift because there is always enough going on to keep everyone busy. The question is whether all that activity is creating the result you actually want.
So here's the invitation. Join us for the next FutureLAB. It's live online working day built around the 5 stages we've just talked about. Review, focus, design, activate, and execute. The current investment is £97 per person, including VAT, and I don't want to give you some ridiculous marketing calculation about it being worth £3,742. That's not really how we think about value. The better question is, what is another 90 days spent working on the wrong things worth? What does one delayed decision cost? One important project pushed into another quarter? Another 3 months of you being the bottleneck to your business? Another 90 days of knowing what needs to happen without creating the conditions to actually make it happen? Again, that £97 is a very small decision.
And you don't need to arrive with everything figured out. That is the point. Bring the business, bring the questions, bring the things that haven't worked, bring the priorities competing for attention, bring the decisions you have been avoiding. We'll give you the structure to work through them.
There's one key idea I really want to leave you with. Whether you join FutureLAB or not, another 90 days are going to pass. You can allow those 90 days to be dictated by whatever becomes most urgent, or you can decide what they're going to be about. That's the choice.
If you're ready to stop drifting and start designing the next quarter deliberately, We'd love to work through it with you.
Click the button below, choose the next available FutureLAB session, reserve your place for £97 and give your next 90 days a job.
We'll see you inside FutureLAB.
Stop drifting.
Start designing.